Nicole Kidman files for divorce from Keith Urban after he, split from her and has moved on.
As Nicole Kidman faces headlines over her divorce from Keith Urban after 2 decades, never-before-seen footage of her marriage to Tom Cruise has resurfaced, and the parallels are impossible to ignore.
I remember walking in. I remember being so nervous and seeing Tom Cruise drive up in a Porsche, I think it was.
Behind the dazzling red carpets lurked betrayal, scandal, and secrets the world was never meant to see. Their fairy tale start once seemed unstoppable, but was it already doomed from the beginning? Hollywood's golden couple. You know, when we look back at Hollywood's most iconic relationships, few capture the imagination quite like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Their love story began with all the elements of a blockbuster romance. A young, wide-eyed actress fresh from Australia, a global superstar at the very peak of his fame, and the promise of a union that looked picture-perfect on red carpets and magazine covers. Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise's story began at a defining moment in Hollywood. Both were rising stars whose careers converged on the set of Days of Thunder in 1989. Kidman, then a 22-year-old actress from Australia who had gained international attention for her role in Dead Calm, auditioned for the racing drama opposite Cruise, who by then was already one of the most bankable names in cinema. Kidman later recalled the intensity of that moment.
I remember walking in. I remember being so nervous and seeing Tom Cruise drive up in a Porsche, I think it was, and he got out of the car and walked through, and I was like, and my jaw dropped.
She was convinced she wouldn't get the role, but was called later that afternoon with the news she had landed it. That opportunity did not just launch her international career, it altered the entire trajectory of her personal life. From the beginning, Kidman openly acknowledged the transformative effect of that period.
Tom really supported me, and I'm so grateful to him for that. So yeah, that was like huge, and you know, obviously changed my life extraordinarily, and so grateful for the film, for everything that came with it.
The professional collaboration quickly turned into a romance. By Christmas Eve of 1990, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman were married in a private ceremony in Telluride, Colorado, marking the beginning of one of the most intensely scrutinized celebrity unions of the 1990s. The marriage coincided with an extraordinary rise for both stars. Cruise, having established himself with films like Top Gun and Rain Man, continued his dominance at the box office. Kidman, meanwhile, moved from supporting parts to lead roles that demonstrated her range. Their shared stardom amplified their profile as a couple. In the public imagination, they became Hollywood royalty, young, glamorous, and seemingly inseparable. Despite the appearances, their early years were marked by personal challenges that rarely made the headlines at the time. Kidman, who had always harbored strong maternal instincts, faced devastating setbacks. She suffered an ectopic pregnancy early in their marriage, which was followed by a miscarriage. Both events were deeply personal losses, but they became catalysts for the couple's decision to pursue adoption. In 1992, they adopted a daughter, Isabella Jane Cruz, and in 1995, they adopted a son, Connor Anthony Cruz. Nicole later reflected on this chapter, stating she had always longed for children and embraced motherhood through multiple avenues. She would later say, "I'm a mother that's experienced motherhood through many different avenues now. It's incredible." The adoption process and their growing family added a deeper layer to their public persona. They were not only megastars, but also young parents, navigating a demanding industry while raising 2 children. Kidman described that period as one in which she felt cocooned from the outside world, dependent on her marriage and her family. Speaking to Vanity Fair years later, she admitted, "I fell passionately in love. This is it. I was consumed by it willingly. Really, my first major relationship." As their family life developed, Cruise's connection to the Church of Scientology became more pronounced. Cruise had been introduced to Scientology in the mid-1980s by his first wife, Mimi Rogers. By the time he was with Kidman, he was considered one of its most high-profile members. However, Nicole Kidman's relationship with the church was more complicated. According to accounts from former Scientology insiders, Kidman's presence was seen as problematic by church leadership, who worried she might pull Cruise away.
When I was at the celebrity church, he wasn't around. He wasn't on services, and I was told from them that it was because Nicole Kidman was an influence on him.
And not a good one.
And not a good one.
The tension between Kidman and Scientology leadership reportedly began early in the marriage. At the time, she was viewed as an SP, or suppressive person in church terminology, someone deemed obstructive to another member's spiritual progress. This dynamic created a pressure point in the relationship, even as the couple presented a united front to the world. The influence of Scientology reportedly extended beyond mere perception. Multiple reports suggest that the church monitored the couple closely, with individuals placed in their household who provided information back to church leadership.
When Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman were first married, and Andrea Dovin and Michael Dovin were their assistants, they were spies for Scientology the entire time. Tom Cruise during that time period was not really doing a lot in Scientology, and he wasn't promoting Scientology, he wasn't saying he was a Scientologist, none of that. And so the only way they had to get kind of current intel on Tom Cruise and Nicole was through these two people, Andrea Dovin and Michael Dovin. And Michael Dovin and Andrea Dovin were basically giving reports or giving information and funneling intel to David Miscavige.
These alleged activities underscore the degree to which Kidman's marriage to Cruise was entangled not only in Hollywood celebrity, but also in the inner workings of one of the most controversial organizations in America. Nonetheless, for much of the 1990s, Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman represented stability and glamour in the entertainment world. Their joint projects reinforced this image. The two starred together in Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, released in 1999 after a long and demanding production. The film, with its themes of secrecy, fidelity, and hidden lives, became the subject of intense speculation because of the parallels drawn to their real relationship. While critics debated the film's artistic merit, it became emblematic of the aura surrounding the couple, mysterious, intense, and impossible to ignore. During this same era, Nicole continued to expand her acting range with critical successes like To Die For, which earned her a Golden Globe, and Practical Magic, which broadened her audience appeal. Cruise's output, from A Few Good Men to Mission Impossible, reinforced his standing as a global superstar. Professionally, they were at the peak of their influence, frequently featured on magazine covers, red carpets, and at major award shows. Their combined profile amplified interest in every aspect of their private lives. Kidman herself later admitted that despite the attention, she was often in Cruise's shadow during their marriage. Speaking retrospectively, she explained, "I would always cower in the background. I felt like it was my job to put on a beautiful dress and to be seen and not heard." That statement revealed a dynamic of imbalance that was not widely recognized at the time, but which would later resonate as observers re-evaluated their marriage in the context of its eventual breakdown. The couple's public image was also reinforced by their appearances together at political and cultural events. In 1997, during the filming of The Peacemaker, Kidman recalled traveling with Cruise and co-star George Clooney to meet then First Lady Hillary Clinton while on location in Slovakia.
We actually met her in Slovakia while we were making this movie. She happened to be there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so they arranged for George and Tom and myself to go and meet her, which was a great honor.
Such moments contributed to their image as a power couple who moved easily between Hollywood and the global political stage. Even as they embraced this status, the private toll of public scrutiny and internal pressures was mounting. Kidman reflected years later that their fame created a cocoon around them, one that fostered dependence but also isolation. She told Vanity Fair, "You're being watched and scrutinized, but it's also deeply romantic because it feels like you're in it together, as if you're in a cocoon and you become very dependent." This dependency, however, made the eventual unraveling of their marriage all the more disorienting. By the late 1990s, Nicole and Tom were fixtures of Hollywood life, balancing red carpet glamour with the demands of parenthood. Publicly, they projected unity, but the undercurrents of discord were beginning to surface. Reports suggest that as Tom deepened his association with Scientology leadership, particularly David Miscavige, Kidman's resistance became a larger concern within the church.
And convince him that if he gets, if he does the Scientology upper levels, then that's going to make everything good again in his life.
Right. And even specifically that Nicole was the suppressive person on Tom Cruise's, case.
At the same time, Kidman was entering a period of artistic growth. Her performances in films like Moulin Rouge and the others demonstrated not only her resilience, but also her ability to redefine herself outside the context of her marriage. These roles would prove pivotal in the years to come, especially as her personal life shifted dramatically. Thus, the first decade of Cruise and Kidman's union was one of striking contrasts. On the surface, they embodied Hollywood glamour, family devotion, and artistic accomplishment. Beneath that sheen, however, were unresolved tensions involving personal loss, religious influence, and imbalances in their relationship. These forces, though largely hidden at the time, would soon converge in ways that reshaped both their lives and careers. The stage was set for a dramatic turning point, the collapse of Hollywood's golden couple. The fall, divorce, Scientology, and custody battles. The dissolution of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's marriage in 2001 marked one of the most widely scrutinized separations in Hollywood history. The collapse did not merely involve two celebrities parting ways, it became entangled with miscarriages, questions of faith, the influence of Scientology, and a custody battle that altered the trajectory of an entire family. The first shock came in February 2001 when Cruise abruptly filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. At the time, the decision blindsided much of the public, and reportedly, Nicole herself. Media outlets reported that she had not been anticipating such a move, believing their marriage was secure. The suddenness of the filing fueled speculation, particularly given that just months earlier they had celebrated their 10th anniversary. Nicole later described the emotional devastation of that period.
I was running from my life at that time. I wasn't able to handle the reality of my life. And as an actor, you have this wonderful thing where you can go and get lost in somebody else's life.
She admitted she threw herself into work to cope with the unraveling of her personal foundation. What made the divorce especially painful was that it coincided with another miscarriage. Kidman suffered the loss around the same time Cruise filed, compounding her grief. Reports confirm she endured both an earlier ectopic pregnancy and this later miscarriage. The timing cast a shadow over the separation and highlighted the extent of her personal suffering. Meanwhile, Tom's growing ties to Scientology became a central narrative in explanations for the split. Former Scientology officials have stated that Kidman was viewed as a liability by church leadership.
If you're in Scientology and you are not progressing up these confidential upper levels, it's because you have a suppressive person in your life that's keeping you from becoming a better Scientologist and getting trained and processed up these confidential levels. So if you believe in Scientology and you believe that you're not getting up the upper levels, then there has to be a suppressive person in your life. And they told Tom that Nicole was that person, and that is when he went right back into Scientology and went hard.
Accounts from ex-Scientologists also allege that Nicole's phones were tapped and surveillance was conducted on the couple. In the documentary Going Clear, investigators claim they were hired to monitor her communications, allegedly at Cruise's request through his lawyer. Although Cruise denied knowledge of these actions, the claims fueled controversy over the extent of Scientology's intrusion into their marriage. Further testimony suggests that individuals within Cruise's inner circle were feeding information directly to Scientology leadership.
When Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman were first married, and Andrea Dovin and Michael Dovin were their assistants, they were spies for Scientology the entire time. Tom Cruise during that time period was not really doing a lot in Scientology, and he wasn't promoting Scientology, he wasn't saying he was a Scientologist, none of that. And so the only way they had to get kind of current intel on Tom Cruise and Nicole was through these two people, Andrea Dovin and Michael Dovin. And Michael Dovin and Andrea Dovin were basically giving reports or giving information and funneling intel to David Miscavige. And that is eventually how they ended up getting Tom and Nicole busted up.
These allegations, whether fully substantiated or not, established a consistent narrative that the church had a vested interest in breaking apart the marriage. Kidman herself has rarely spoken directly about these aspects, often deflecting when asked about her marriage.
But I also don't like discussing exes and all of that because I'm married. I'm very happily married. I have 2 little girls, and I feel it's almost disrespectful, one, to Tom and disrespectful to Keith. So I try to stay in the here and now.
Her reluctance underscores both her desire to protect her current family and the unresolved sensitivities tied to her past. The most contested issue following the separation was custody of their adopted children, Isabella and Connor. Initially, custody was to be shared. However, over time, speculation arose that Scientology played a role in distancing the children from Nicole. Kidman herself acknowledged challenges in her maternal relationship. She admitted in an interview that her children sometimes referred to her by her first name rather than Mom. She told GMTV, My kids don't call me mommy. They don't even call me mom. They call me Nicole, which I hate, and I tell them off for it. Critics of Scientology have long argued that the church encourages children of members to disconnect from those considered suppressive persons. This framework helps explain why Nicole's bond with her children appeared strained in the years after the divorce, even as she refrained from publicly criticizing Cruz or the church. At the same time, Tom made careful, limited comments about Nicole in interviews. When asked if she had been the love of his life, he hesitated before replying.
I love Nick very much. There's no question.
His statements reflected both an acknowledgement of their history and a reluctance to elaborate further. For Nicole, the early 2000s became a period of reinvention and professional triumph. In the immediate aftermath of her divorce, she delivered some of her most celebrated performances. She starred in Moulin Rouge, 2001, The Others, 2001, and The Hours, 2002, for which she won the Academy Award for Best Actress. Reflecting on this period, she acknowledged that her creative surge was a form of escape.
I mean, I think it was, to be completely honest, I was running from my life at that time. I wasn't able to handle the reality of my life. And as an actor, you have this wonderful thing where you can go and get lost in somebody else's life.
Despite professional acclaim, she admitted the loneliness that lingered. Winning an Oscar did not fill the personal void.
I was the loneliest I'd ever been.
That candid admission illustrated the duality of her experience, public triumph alongside private pain. Her reflections on resilience often referenced the importance of persistence through hardship. In one interview, she described how the promotional cycle of Moulin Rouge forced her to remain active even amid turmoil.
That was a shaky time because I remember you were going through a divorce and
I was catapulted into huge sort of fame.
Yes.
It all coincided in the sense of that.
Her strategy of channeling pain into art enabled her to emerge not only intact, but stronger. By contrast, Cruz's public image during this period began to shift. His increasing openness about Scientology, combined with high-profile incidents like the infamous couch-jumping appearance on Oprah, sparked debates about his personal stability. Scientology's role in his personal and professional choices became a recurring theme in media coverage. The diverging trajectories of Cruz and Kidman underscored the finality of their separation. Nicole, though wounded, redefined herself as one of the foremost actresses of her generation. Cruz, while maintaining box office clout, became more deeply intertwined with Scientology and subject to heightened scrutiny because of it. By the mid-2000s, Nicole Kidman had established herself anew, both personally and professionally. Tom Cruise had reinforced his allegiance to Scientology while continuing his film career. Their paths had decisively diverged, but the shadows of their shared history lingered, particularly in the lives of their children. This was not simply a Hollywood breakup. It was a collision of fame, faith, and family, with consequences that reverberated long after the divorce papers were signed. Life after Tom, healing and reinvention. Following the painful collapse of her marriage to Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman began the arduous process of rebuilding her life. Her reinvention was not immediate. In the years after 2001, she poured herself into her career, achieving professional triumphs that cemented her as one of the most accomplished actresses of her generation. Yet beyond awards and acclaim, the most significant transformation came from her journey toward personal healing, remarriage, motherhood, and a more balanced public life. Now, this is where the story takes a turn from private heartbreak to public myth-making. On August 8, 2001, paparazzi captured Nicole walking down a Los Angeles street. She was dressed casually, green capri pants, a patterned top, and sneakers. But it wasn't the outfit that mattered. What mattered was her body language, arms outstretched, head tilted back, eyes closed, and mouth open in what looked like sheer bliss. The photos were published in outlets like the Irish Independent under headlines like "Nicole Kidman screams with joy as she cruises away finally from Tom." And just like that, a narrative was born. Nicole Kidman celebrating her divorce. Fast forward to 2018, and those photos roared back into the spotlight. A Twitter user posted, "Live every day like you're 2001 Nicole Kidman leaving her lawyer's office after divorcing Tom Cruise." That tweet went viral. Tens of thousands of likes, retweets, and recreations. Suddenly, Nicole Kidman wasn't just a woman going through a painful divorce in 2001. She was an icon of liberation. Her pose became a shorthand for freedom, empowerment, and breaking free from toxic relationships. The meme spread across platforms. Instagram recreations, TikToks with millions of views, even merchandise. One woman even staged her own divorce party photo shoot in the same outfit. Celebrities like Jenna Dewan got in on it too, channeling Nicole's triumphant stride after her own split. It was funny, relatable, and empowering, but it also simplified a deeply complex and painful chapter of Nicole's life. Here's where things get even more complicated. In a 2024 interview with British GQ, Nicole addressed the meme directly for the first time. Her words surprised almost everyone. "I know that image. That was not me. That was from a film. That wasn't real life." She didn't specify which film. It may have been The Hours or Birthday Girl, both filmed around that time, but her clarification upended more than 2 decades of meme culture. Fans were divided. Some felt disappointed, accusing her of trying to rewrite history or appease Cruz. Others argued that it didn't matter whether the photos were staged. The emotional truth they symbolized was what counted. As one Reddit user put it, "Don't spoil a good thing." Too many women have shared this exact emotion when breaking free. The irony, of course, is that Nicole had always described her divorce as devastating, not liberating. In 2001, she said outright that it took years to heal, that she had been blindsided. The meme, however, immortalized her as the face of joyful freedom. Her next major turning point came in 2005 when she met Australian country singer Keith Urban. Their relationship moved quickly. Nicole herself recalled how it was a spontaneous beginning.
I sort of stumbled into Keith. Literally stumbled into him. and in my spontaneous way, got married very quickly. And we got to know each other when we were married.
Despite their haste, the relationship endured. By June 2006, the couple had married in Sydney, beginning a new chapter that contrasted sharply with her previous union. Motherhood again became central to her life. Nicole and Keith welcomed their first biological daughter, Sunday Rose, in 2008, when Kidman was 41. In 2010, their second daughter, Faith Margaret, was born with the help of a surrogate. Nicole described the emotional impact of this experience in detail.
Deeply emotional, moving, and having given birth and then being on the place of seeing my child being born this way, the love I felt for our surrogate gestational carrier. When we released our statement, I know in Australia there was like, gestational carrier, what does that mean? And I think we were trying to be accurate. If it's your biological child, then you use gestational carrier, and if it isn't, then you use surrogate. I mean, who knows what it is, but she was the most wonderful woman to do this for us.
For Nicole, the surrogate represented not just a medical solution, but an extraordinary act of generosity. Through adoption, biological births, and surrogacy, Kidman came to embody a wide spectrum of maternal experiences. The resilience that had carried her through miscarriages and the loss of custody intimacy with Bella and Connor was now channeled into nurturing her younger children. Her relationship with Bella and Connor, however, remained complex. Publicly, Nicole continued to avoid criticism of Tom Cruise or Scientology, maintaining a stance of respect. In a 2018 interview, she emphasized her unconditional support. "I know 150% that I would give up my life for my children because it's what my purpose is." She acknowledged that her adult children had chosen their own paths, and as a mother, her role was to love them regardless of circumstances. This careful balance reflected both her enduring affection and her recognition of the complex dynamics surrounding their upbringing. Meanwhile, her marriage to Keith Urban weathered challenges, including his public struggle with substance abuse early in their union. Nicole later remarked that despite difficulties, their bond endured because of shared commitment and mutual care.
We found each other in this huge world, and we're crazy about each other, you know? and we now have this family that's, you know, we've gotten to experience in our 40s. And he's got 2 little girls, so it's a big life for him now. And I'm just so glad to have met my mate, you know, the person that kind of protects me and loves me.
As Nicole's personal life stabilized, her career continued to evolve. She took on diverse roles in films such as Rabbit Hole 2010, Lion 2016, and Being the Ricardos 2021, projects that garnered multiple award nominations and confirmed her versatility. She also expanded into television, starring in acclaimed series like Big Little Lies, which earned her both an Emmy and a Golden Globe. Public perception of Nicole shifted as well. Whereas she had once been defined largely in relation to Tom Cruise, she increasingly became recognized as a self-possessed artist and humanitarian in her own right. Interviews from this period reveal her focus on authenticity and resilience.
I'm just a girl who's been put into a pretty extraordinary situations at time, and I'm kind of navigating my way through. And I fall over and make mistakes, pick myself back up and hope for the best. and try to conduct myself with as much, I suppose, authenticity and you know, a moral code which I feel is right.
The viral resurgence of footage in recent years has reignited public fascination with her past. Clips of Nicole Kidman leaving her lawyer's office after the divorce was finalized, smiling with palpable relief, continue to circulate widely online. They symbolize her liberation after a tumultuous decade. Likewise, her sharp quip about post-divorce freedom has become a defining viral moment.
Hi. You look fantastic. I heard you're getting divorced. How's that going?
Well, I can wear heels now.
Now, fast forward to October 2025. 2 decades after the divorce and a year after Nicole's British GQ clarification, the meme is still alive. In fact, it's experiencing yet another resurgence, this time tied to Nicole's recent split from Keith Urban. After 19 years of marriage, reports emerged in September 2025 that the two had quietly separated. Posts on X read things like, "From one divorce meme to another, Nicole, we've got you." Others joked about a Nicole Kidman divorce meme, the sequel. For Nicole, it's never been about relitigating the past. It's been about moving forward, protecting her family, and building a life beyond the shadow of Tom Cruise. And in many ways, the divorce marked the start of her greatest professional era. She became not just a movie star, but a serious artist, an actress who could carry a film, take risks, and command respect. Over the next 2 decades, she diversified into television, producing and starring in hits like Big Little Lies, which tackled themes of abuse and resilience with raw honesty. And through it all, she kept pushing herself, telling people.
And I so didn't think I could do it. I had to be convinced that I could do it. I remember saying to Baz, I'm just not good enough. There's no way I'm going to be able to sing and do all of this. And
that doubt, that humility, it's what makes her journey so compelling. She went from being Tom Cruise's wife to being one of the most respected actresses of her generation. Other resurfaced interviews highlight her composure and restraint in discussing Cruise. Nicole consistently avoided inflammatory remarks, framing her silence as an act of respect for both Tom and her current husband, Keith. This restraint, while at times criticized for vagueness, reinforced her commitment to protecting her family and avoiding unnecessary conflict. Despite these unresolved questions, Kidman's later life reflects a trajectory of healing and empowerment. She speaks often about the importance of choosing love, resilience, and authenticity.
What would you say to the 21-year-old Nicole today?
I'd say enjoy it, you know, because really that's the only thing that we have is and choose love.
These reflections illustrate her evolution from the young actress swept into a whirlwind marriage to a seasoned artist who reclaimed agency over her life. Enjoying the content? Make sure to check out the suggested videos by clicking the cards on your screen.